on the Tibetan plateau, Chirus roam free, oblivious to the tapestry of danger, steadily weaving up to their highlands. Fayaz lives in Srinagar, Kashmir, India's northernmost frontier. Fayaz's is a family of master weavers, once famed as makers of Shahtoosh shawls. They were elite among Kashmiri weavers, known for their highly evolved skill and nimble craft, honed over 6 centuries. Though Shahtoosh is known to have travelled along the Silk Route between Central Asia and the Middle East, it was used mostly as warm lining in clothing. It is only in Kashmir that the weaving community evolved a process to transform this wool into a fabric as fine as art. Shahtoosh is Persian for the king of wool. Its extraordinary fibre is just 1/5 the width of human hair. Shahtoosh shawls are among the finest in the world, celebrated for its delicate feather-light crafting, softness, and incredible warmth. For several hundred years, these luxury shawls were sought by aristocrats and handed down generations as inheritance. Till the late 1980s, Shahtoosh shawls continued to be a status symbol not only in high society India, but increasingly across the world. Priced between $800 to $5,000 in India, these shawls have been known to fetch up to $17,600 in the international market. But where did this magic fibre come from? What was the real story? Tibetan antelopes, or Chiru, are found only on the Tibetan plateau, extending partly into a small area of Ladakh in India. The average altitude here is about 4,500 meters, and winter temperatures can dip to -40 degrees centigrade. These animals, related to the sheep family, have a thick underfleece which helps them to adapt to the extreme cold. It is this undercoat that the world was after. In the early 1990s, George Schaller confirmed the gruesome link between the fleece of the Chiru and this wonder yarn. At the time, up to 20,000 Chirus were found slaughtered on remote Tibetan slopes. For every 150 grams of wool, 3 Chirus were killed. From 65,000 in the 1990s, the Chiru's survival was now precarious. In 2000, a 4-member team from the International Fund for Animal Welfare and Wildlife Trust of India did an undercover investigation in Tibet.
Along the way, we started getting evidence of a very large-scale trade in Shahtoosh that was happening in Tibet and moving out of, say, places like Gurtse, where we found huge caches of skins lying in people's backyards.
Shahtoosh fleece was available for sale even for regular travelers.
So when we moved into Taglakot, for example, we found a couple of traders there who were willing to send us, about 100 kgs a month or 200 kgs a month, maybe more than that if we wanted easily. A lot of skins coming in from India to Tibet, for example, otter skins were going in there, and we could see in a huge market skins being sold. So there was a fairly close link, sort of an illegal trade link that was between the two countries that had been probably on for centuries.
In April 2001, Chinese forestry police confiscated over 20,756 Chiru pelts. In August 2001, IFAW and WTI released their report and campaign, Wrap Up the Trade. It is only in 2002 that a conclusive ban was imposed on the international Shahtoosh trade, despite a law being in place since 1976. This ban now included a focused legislation in Jammu and Kashmir. While this ban was critical for the survival of the Chiru, it spelled disaster for the Shahtoosh workers of Kashmir. Shahtoosh wool traditionally found its way to Kashmir across thousands of kilometers. Vast amounts continue to be routed surreptitiously through Nepal and Delhi. Earlier, traders weighed this wool and gave it to skilled separators who would clean it in their homes and earn rupees 50 for about 50 grams cleaned in a day. The cleaned wool was then hand-spun into yarn, knotted in clusters of 10 9-inch threads. Spinners were paid 1 rupee per knot. These workers did not have to pay traders for the wool they worked and were instead paid well for their skill.
बैकबोन इसकी इस ट्रेड की मानी जाती थी शाहतोश, उसमें पश्मीने से ऑलमोस्ट डबल वेजेस मिलती थी. तो ओवरऑल जो आर्टिजनस जो थे उनकी कंडीशंस खराब से खराब होने लगी.
Thousands of people were involved in different aspects of this delicate home-based craft. Women, many of them conflict widows, formed a large part of this workforce. Now, families dependent on these incomes were worst hit. At 70, Zubeda now struggles to keep her family afloat.
Nafi is part of my Sikatan, the Hui was Pelagan at Katas, Subastadias Hatropiziana. I got some toss wall toss dear. Atis Jan Zianan Zahati, Trahati, the Atio Atos and Nas Beyond and Nas Conscious was yell. Which is very which on Gaius batches. Zarazarmi and Chicas have been as a dish as agriculture. Nachi and Jai. Nachimon Shiran Bicharian Kachi. Pose one I'm wood. I'm so Rapaya, Isaac, Daropin, Isaac Boswazak, Parn. The back to Elim Gerta. Magar Bushas gave it. मैं जो सख्त सख्त
It soon became clear that for the band to be genuinely successful, the livelihood of thousands of these people needed to be secured. To assess the situation on the ground, WTI and IFAW launched a survey in the valley. Fayaz's family had urged him to stay away from this doomed trade. But he was among the first to be a part of this survey.
एक प्राइवेट जॉब कर रहा था तो मैंने वो छोड़ दी और इसमें आ गया क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि शायद मैं कम्युनिटी के लिए कुछ कर सकूंगा इस मीडियम के थ्रू.
The survey findings brought some clarity to the situation of the Shahtoosh workers. It was a home-based industry where all members of the family were involved in separate processes. There were about 15,000 directly involved. Women were the largest segment and widows were worst hit. 60% of these workers wanted to shift to pashmina. Pashmina earnings were 1/3 that of Shahtoosh. Could pashmina then offer an alternate livelihood for displaced Shahtoosh workers? Pashmina wool is combed off mountain goats that are farm bred. This wool comes in many grades. The finest pashmina at 10 microns is almost comparable to Shahtoosh yarn. Original Kashmiri pashmina shawls are meticulously handcrafted from this soft wool in a process similar to Shahtoosh. However, there were a few hurdles in the transition from Shahtoosh to pashmina employment. The earnings from pashmina were much less than from Shahtoosh.
अगर हम शाहतूश को लेते तो शाहतूश में हम मंथली थाउजेंड्स भी कर सकते थे एक स्किलफुल पर्सन अगर होगा तो पश्मीने में तो हम उतना नहीं कर पाएंगे.
With more artisans available, traders had the upper hand and could push the paltry wages down further.
There is a very strong manufacturer and a trader lobby which actually ultimately makes the most profit out of this enterprise, and they are not interested in raising wages or raising or letting the profits go to the workers.
Also, with pashmina wool being much stronger and thicker, many of the famed hand processes were losing out to machines. Production centers churning imitations outside Kashmir had invaded the threshold of this Kashmiri craft, making hundreds of talented workers redundant.
जो पूरी तरह से हैंडमेड होता था वो तो एक उसमें गारंटी दे सकते थे हम कि हाँ जी बस आप इसको सालों साल चला सकते हैं, सालों साल आपके पास ये प्रोडक्ट है और इसमें कोई भी आपको परेशानी नहीं, लेकिन इसमें तो गारंटी नहीं है जो मशीन से बनी है.
So the answer therefore lay in reviving the traditional skills, in reviving the traditional techniques, which would then be able to give the people jobs and be able to command higher prices.
It is in this crisis situation that IFAW and WTI brought in their interventions to conserve the Chiru and simultaneously backward integrate and preserve the livelihoods of these traditional weavers. A key group of weavers were networked to form the Kashmir Handmade Pashmina Promotion Trust. Through this, the workers themselves would now control the production and share the profit. This body would also guarantee 100% pashmina, both in material sourcing and its handcrafting. The other strategic thrust was to promote and personify pashmina as a globally recognized geographical brand.
And that is why we went ahead to make the geographical indication of origin brand, which would be like champagne or Darjeeling tea, which has a unique flavor to a location.
The initial years were a challenge to convince artisans to come on board and adopt the ideas thrown up by the project. The shift from Shahtoosh to pashmina was not smooth. The drop in earnings was drastic, and workers were insecure about moving on from familiar ground. Unlike Shahtoosh, where they were given the wool at no cost, in pashmina, workers had to pay traders upfront for the wool. They were therefore skeptical of investing money in pashmina and also of becoming collective producers. It took 3 years of consistent groundwork and dialogue to get it started. Two years on, the project has started to take shape. Each step of the production process is checked for quality, right from the raw wool to the final product. Today, nearly 2,000 workers are a part of this effort. The trust has now created its own brand of pashmina shawls, Pashma. In 2006, Pashma shawls were displayed and sold for the first time at the Showcase Handicraft Bazaar, Delhi Haat, in New Delhi.
आर्टिजन्स को साथ ले गए, तो आर्टिजन्स ने भी देखा कि ट्रेडिशनल पश्मीना की डिमांड है, उसके कस्टमर्स हैं और वो अच्छी प्राइस भी देने में उनको कोई संकोच नहीं है. आर्टिजन लेवल पर एक कॉन्फिडेंस बन गया कि अगर हम अपना पहला वाला जो ट्रेडिशनल काम है वो करें तो हमें इसमें इनकम भी बढ़ जाएगी और हमारा काम भी बढ़ जाएगा.
This was followed by another exhibition and sale in December 2007. Pashma shawls have also been exhibited in Dubai.
Here is a case where the IFAW motto, a better world for animals and people, can be truly personified. Here is a case where the law is very strongly for the protection of the animal. But at the same time, there is a very good product, a very good possibility, a very good alternative livelihood available. And I think this is the essence of Pashma, the brand we are trying to establish.
With Pashma shawls now set to become a coveted possession, there is finally hope for both the Chiru and for the heritage weavers of Kashmir.
हम एक बेटर प्रोडक्ट दे रहे हैं जो प्योर है, रियल है और ट्रेडिशनल है. तो इसको अगर हम वर्कर्स के लिए बनाएं तो ये एक डिस्टेंट ड्रीम लगता है, लेकिन हम डेफिनेटली इसको अचीव कर लेंगे.
The mountains and the valley may now have a real chance of equilibrium between conservation and livelihood.